My dear students, today for your literature we'll be doing one of the poem from our poetry section, that is Daffodils by William Wordsworth. So before we proceed, as always, to know about the poet, so William Wordsworth, he was born in the year 1770, 7th of April 1770, was born in the picturesque countryside as a little boy. He was born in the northwestern England, okay, and which was also known as the Lake District. And his sister's name is Dorothy Wordsworth, with whom he is very much attached and close. Okay, and his father, William Wordsworth's father, he was a legal representative of James Luther. Okay, so William Wordsworth, he didn't have that lavish kind of childhood. He had a very minor kind of childhood where he was taught to read and write by his mother. Okay, and he also attended the tiny school of low quality in Cockermouth, and then he went to Penrith for the upper class families, and where he was taught by Anne Birkett. Okay, now when we talk about his writing, there are many beautiful poems written by William Wordsworth, out of which there are descriptive sketches and there is preludes, okay, lyrical ballad. The prelude is also written by William Wordsworth, and Tintern Abbey, etc. So many poems has been written, out of which one is this Daffodils. Okay, now let us proceed towards the paragraph. So, I wandered lonely as a cloud that floats on high over vales and hills, when all at once I saw a crowd of host of golden daffodils beside the lake, beneath the trees, fluttering and dancing in the breeze. So what happens? The first paragraph, we see the poet is roaming. He is roaming there aimlessly, okay, by the side of the lake, and what he felt like, he is seeing some clouds floating overhead. He feels that, and suddenly what happens, his eyes falls on an abundant growth of the daffodil flowers. Okay, these flowers were golden in color, and they were numerous, okay, and they grew beside the lake and under the trees. And now, since it was a breezy day, the daffodil seems to dance in joy. Okay, so what happens? William Wordsworth, he lived in the Lake District, okay, which was filled of lot of hills and valleys and lakes. Now we can also assume that he was walking in a fairly remote and a wild part of the countryside. Now what happened? These two pictures attract the attention of the readers. Okay, in the first stanza we see, the first is that the lonely clouds, and second one is the floating of the daffodils over hills and valley. Okay, and the poet equates himself to the crowd to prove that he also is he is into the state of loneliness. That means here he compares himself with the clouds. The clouds are very much aloof from the earth, right? It is situated in such a way where nobody can reach it. It is very different. It is very lonely. Okay, similarly, though being crowded with such a worldly affairs, and there are so many people on ground, but he considers himself to be lonely, just as the clouds floating above the sky. Okay, and now what happens? The second picture what we talk about is also about the daffodils. Now what we see is that these daffodils are floating in the mild breeze. Okay, they are like dancing, and what we see is these flowers are golden in color. Okay, children, nothing is golden, like flowers are not golden, but just symbolizing the color. That means the beauty of the color, that it transforms itself into being a golden. Okay, and then what we see, this is personified and is also imagined to be doing some human activities like swaying and dancing, though being non-living. Okay, this is also the hint that the daffodils are otherworldly. Here that means the poet gives a lot of life to those non-living objects. Yes or no? Okay. Now this is what happens in the first paragraph. Now the second paragraph, let us move ahead. It's continuous as the stars that shine and twinkle on the Milky Way. They stretched in a never-ending line along the margin of the bay. 10,000 saw I at a glance, tossing their heads in sprightly dance. Okay, now what happens? The second paragraph is the daffodils. They are like the stars that are found in the Milky Way. That means just like the stars that we are never to count, and the stars are always uncountable. Similarly, the daffodils on the ground, they are also, that means they were numerous. Understood? They were countless, and they were all grew beside the lake. Okay, bank of the river, and in a continuous stretch. Now the poet thought that he thinks that maybe approx it is 10,000. Understood? 10,000 daffodils at one glance means at what I saw. Okay, the upper parts of the flowers, they were all tossing in the wind. They were all swaying in the wind. Now hence the poet is also imagining that they were dancing, enjoying. That means enjoying. See, beauty lies in the eyes of the beholder. This is very true. So here, though usually when there is wind, every flowers, even the leaves also sway. No, it doesn't mean that it dances. But here he is so much affectionately, so much mesmerized by the beauty of nature that he considers everything seems beautiful and is dancing and rejoicing. Understood? Just like human beings. Now what happens? This poet, I said, there are the multitude of daffodils and the stars, just like the stars in the Milky Way. That means here's a figure of speech where this daffodils is being personified with the stars in the Milky Way. Okay, these stars also seen, they are condensed form, that they cannot be distinguished in one star from the other. Okay, this similarly these daffodils are also huddled together. They are also as not to be differentiated from each other. That means they look so similar that cannot be differentiated, just like the stars. Okay. Now this is why the poet is also considering the word crowd. Okay, earlier to mention the daffodils. Then the poet uses the numbers which signifies the concentration of the daffodils, and which also signifies what? The particular lake the poet was walking beside. Now this daffodils has been imagined to be tossing their heads. Tossing their heads as a side are like dancing. Okay, that means rejoicing. They are manifested in their active dance. That means they are into their own worlds. Okay, and this world is being witnessed by whom? By William Wordsworth himself. Okay, now the third paragraph, the waves beside them danced, but they outdid the sparkling waves in glee. A poet could not, but he gave in such a jocund company. I gazed and gazed, but little thought what wealth the show to me had brought. Okay, now what happens? The third paragraph, the poet is continuously here still present in the side of the daffodils where they are growing beside the lake. What he sees? He is seeing the waves of the lake is dancing in joy too. The waves which was beside the daffodils is also dancing. But actually the breeze also made the upper surface of the water wrinkle. That means they are also seeming like it is also dancing. But the dance of the daffodils were more vigorous, were more strong as compared to the dance of the waves. That means if there is a competition that is being held between the daffodils and the waves, that means who will be the winner? The daffodils. Okay. And then what happens? Joyous and considering, that is very natural for the poet to be joyous. Okay, in such a jocund company. Jocund company means a lovely company. If somebody who is alone for a long time, so all of a sudden gets such a company where he is enjoying, where he is very happy, that means that is that moment will be always cherished by that lonely person. Similarly here, daffodils is also that, though they are non-living, but still that they are speaking so much to Wordsworth. Okay, but right at that moment of sensory enjoyment, the poet could not think but these natural sights would help him in future. That time his mind was totally devoid of thinking. He was unable to think anything because he was so mesmerized by that sight where the daffodils were dancing. Okay, so explanation for this paragraph. What is these daffodils are I said that dance of these daffodils and the waves is contrasted here. Okay, though they both are dancing, but the dance of the daffodils is far more better than what the waves are doing. Okay, and then the waves are also dancing in the breeze, and these daffodils seems much more happier, much more life, and then the waves. Now this poem has been inspired by the windy one. The entire scene has totally invested with a joy, human-like presence. He is feeling that he is not with a non-living object, he is with a living object, where there is a competition is being held between these two non-living. Both are non-living. Okay, everything seems to be gleaming, twinkling, shining and sparkling. The poet only watched the whole scene with intense attention, but at the point he could not foresee what these scenes had in store for him in future. See this line, okay? I gazed and gazed, but little thought. But little thought means not able. It doesn't mean that little bit he is thinking. It's not that. Completely he is unable to think. Why? Because he is lost in the thought, lost in the sight of these daffodils. That's the reason for what he is not thinking. Okay, and then now this the visual experiences also is signified by the word show. Okay, now the last paragraph for the poem Daffodils. For often when I am on my couch, I lie in vacant or in pensive mood. They flash upon that inward eye which is the bliss of solitude, and then my heart with pleasure feels and dances with the daffodils. Now what happens when the poet feels in pensive? Pensive means sad mood. Okay, so when the poet is in the sad mood, the poet is thinking about the daffodils. Okay, these daffodils, what he is thinking is just not thinking, just what comes in his mind is the dance of the daffodils, okay, which was tossing in the breeze once when he was alone. This situation, that means that daffodils dancing was the past for him. Now the future, that means now the scene is entirely different. Now he is lonely at home, sitting in the couch. Couch means a kind of divan type which doesn't have a support. Okay, just simple seating. So when he is just lying there in a pensive, maybe something hot, or like he is in a lonely state of mind, or something wrong has been happened, and then he is just lost in the thought. What comes in him? The lost thought is that daffodils, okay, which were dancing once when he had saw. Okay, when he saw that, and that is giving him immense joy and immense relief too from his solitude and boredom. Okay, which he had faced that time. And whenever he is feeling, okay, that the daffodils, that dance of the daffodils, he recalls those dance of the daffodils through his inner eye. Okay, and then with the daffodils he also starts to smile, and then he starts to feel like alive. Okay, now this poet here is explaining the beneficial influence of the nature of the mind of man. No, he takes his own case and says, and he is not giving any other example, he gives his own example, okay, which this is a live example of himself, that whenever he is into a sad mood, he goes to into lost in thought. No, that time nothing comes him. What he recapitulates what he had already seen. That means those dance of the daffodils. Okay, and that is kind of a bliss of solitude. Bliss of solitude means a blessing in disguise during loneliness. What is the blessing here? The sight of the daffodils that makes him happy again, which had once made him happy, which had once made him, now when he is into a sad and a stressful mood, that gives him lot of relief, immense joy. Understood? That is coming from his inner heart. Okay, and then what happened when he sees the daffodils in his imagination? A small smile comes in his face and he gets so relieved. Okay, so this is all about the poem. The infinite beauty of the flowers and the link what is the natural is emphasized in the second paragraph also. Okay, this is the natural agents. There is nothing that is what is not to be that we can also feel what we face in the day-to-day life, the nature. We are always in touch with the natures, no? This is just comes from the eyes. Okay, similarly Wordsworth, he is a nature loving poet, so whatever he writes is almost about the nature only, about the beauty of nature. Okay, and then so this is all about, I'll be giving you the summary of the poem also. Okay, this panorama in such a woods and appeared before his mind's eye. That means when he is walking, he is not with anyone, he is just walking alone. All of a sudden what he sees is the daffodil, so he is lost there. That means this man is a wanderer, he has no fixed place where to go. Otherwise, if he would be in that haste, maybe he would just see a sight and then move on, right? But here he is a wanderer, he has nothing to do, he's just loitering in the in that lake district, and all of a sudden the eyes falls on the daffodils and he is mesmerized and lost. So when a person is in love with something, then the beauty of it comes very clearly, right? Similarly, this also happens with Wordsworth, as he is a nature loving poet. I said it again, so that's why he is mesmerized, lost in the thought of these daffodils. Okay, so this is all about the poem. We will be very soon writing out the notes. Okay, till then, thank you so much.